This video might end up saving your life one day. We are going to go through some key points on situational awareness and what to look out for when you're out in public. The threat is real. You should know this already. Maybe you watch the news. All these things you see on the news, there's always a chance that it could be happening somewhere close to you. And to be prepared for that, there are certain things we can do. Let's go through it. Situational awareness is important because it makes people comfortable around you. You get this aura that you are aware of everything. People can almost see that, okay, this guy has control. He sees this, you know. What it does for people is that they are able to relax more in your presence because they feel like, okay, he has this under control. And it's a burden to bear, but it's a burden that you would want to bear, right? And it's something that is absolutely valuable when it comes to protecting yourself and the people you care about. For example, when I walk in a room, or let's say I'm in a restaurant, right? I don't sit close to the exit. What I always do is I find the second exit. So that's usually behind the counter somewhere, out through the kitchen and through like a back door, right? So I want to identify where is that exit. And I also want to position myself close to that exit with my face towards the main entrance. The bad guys aren't going to come through the second door, most likely, right? You know, this is from Batman, but some people just want to see the world burn. And they'll just do the simplest thing to make sure that happens. And the simplest thing for them is to walk through the front door. In the restaurant, you position yourself so you see the entry, the main point of entry, and close to the second exit. Some places there are multiple entries, right? And what do? You do the same thing. You position yourself as far away from both of them and close to the back door of a restaurant, right? For example. Now, when it comes to situational awareness, you have to be able to assess the environment that you're in. And that always changes. Disclaimer for this, if you walk into a brand new environment, it's like borderline impossible to have an exact fix on the environment you're in because you don't have a baseline. You need to get a baseline understanding of what is the norm in this environment, right? So I've lived most of my life in Norway, so I know what it's like there. I know how people walk, I know how people look, I know what they wear, I know what's the ambience in the restaurants, I know all of this, right? It's printed in. Through doing this, I become conscious of it, but now it's subconscious. I just see these things. I see this is not right, this is not right, this is not right. I say this is right, but I don't think of it. I just walk in the room and I assess it. So it's always a relative threat, right? If you're in Marrakesh in a market, then the threat is relative to something, or it's relatively different to something like here. I'm on a balcony here in Thailand. I see everything, but it's also like, okay, what's to be expected here? If I see 15 individuals walking up this hill over there, I know something is like weird. Like that's gonna make me suspicious, right? But in Marrakesh, maybe in another country, that's normal for people to walk around in groups of 15. So it's always changes. Just an example. So it's like when you're assessing the environment, what can you expect from that environment? I know that in some countries, guns on the street is normal, right? So that's most likely not a threat. An abundance of thing, right? It devalues the thing. So if everyone's walking around with laptops, then that's not a threat. That's a bad example. If everyone's walking around with a duffel bag, then the duffel bag is not a threat. Or heavy backpacks. If everyone walks around with heavy backpacks everywhere they go, then heavy backpacks are not a threat. At least something you can't discern from the others, right? You can't go and say that, okay, that looks suspicious because everyone's doing it, right? And that's the basis of it. You have to find things that separate this out from the norm, so the baseline, and that's what you have to establish. And the faster you can establish that baseline, the better. So that's what I do right now. If I go to a new place, I'm like, okay, what's normal here? But to me, it's like more subconscious now because I have this experience with it. I've done it for so long, so it's like, okay, it just beam. I get all this information, and I just, okay, this seems normal. What do I actually look for when it comes to what separates this off or not? So I look for loitering, cars, trucks, or vans out of place, people who wear different clothing, different than the norm, and items out of place. These four things, especially. Those things I could think of off the cuff at least. There's a lot more stuff, but those are like easy to spot. Let's say for loitering, right? You want to see people who are walking around without an apparent reason, right? Are they just standing around? Are they looking around? You know, you can see a lot. Like if people are looking around a lot, maybe they have a nervous look on their face. Okay, maybe there's something off. Then you have cars or vehicles in places where they are not supposed to be. For example, a town square. We'll get back to this. We'll look at some photographs together. But a car that is in a town square by itself, no one's using it, it's just standing there, that is a big threat. Now, me personally, I don't go near any van or anything that is parked in the street. I stay as far away as I can from it. You can probably think of why that is a threat. Items, so backpack that's just lying on the ground, that is also really dangerous. A bottle too, for example, I'm looking at my bottle right now. A bottle too, that is, let's say it's taped up. You don't know what's in that thing. It's just standing in the middle of the street. That should, what is that, right? It's gonna make you, what the hell is that? And then we have clothing. There is a certain way to dress always when you're out in the public. It's become less and less, it's like more and more accepted to wear whatever you want out in public, in most Western countries at least. That's why clothing, like dressing up properly, is such a great thing as well, because people don't identify you as a threat. Like if you're wearing hoodies, people are like, that makes you not open to people. Hoodies are a bad thing. Don't walk around with a hoodie on your head. And it's so funny because these idiots who do all this bad stuff, they think that they're somehow being more covert by hiding under these hoodies, walking on with their heavy backpack full of spikes and steel nuts and everything. So like let's say someone loitering around with a backpack that's heavy, wearing a hoodie, shabby clothes, that's a threat. That's a real threat. And if I see that, I get like eagle eye focus on that. That is a threat. My adrenaline starts going because I'm ready. I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to, do whatever to stop the threat. I'm trained like this. This is how I train. I can't do anything about it. Like you plus 2 and 2 and you get 4. It's that easy. But again, for clothing, it's like people want to hide away a lot of the time, and that's why it's so important to have that assessment of what's the norm in that environment that you're in. Now, big point on this is gut feeling. Gut feeling is insanely important. If something is off and you feel it here, then something is off. And this is before you've heard any sounds or anything, and you're already feeling it. Like let's say you arrive in a new place, you go into a new restaurant and feel like, okay, here's something is off. Then something is off, and you should take action. Stand around for a minute and just watch what happens, or go out again and just take a minute on the outside and see if there's something going on. So gut feeling is super important. And I just heard this on a podcast actually by Andrew Kuberman. He talked with a hostage negotiator, I don't remember his name, but a hostage negotiator from the FBI. Very, very recent episode. But they talked about how gut feeling, they're actually starting to do studies now on gut feeling and how it actually replicates real life experience. So it's a very true thing. If something feels off, take a moment and think about what's actually going on here. But where do you place yourself in the environment that you're in? Like if I'm in a town square, I don't want to be in the center of the square, right? Because I have all these angles around me that I have to cover. I have a 360. I can only see basically this side. We have our peripheral vision is one of the strongest too. It's actually better than our focus vision, because our focus vision doesn't pick up details. That movement is a big thing. Movement is the number one thing that will get you spotted. So that's why peripheral is actually better at spotting movement. Something moves over there or there, I go like, you see it instantly. So let's say on the town square, right, I position myself to the side. Maybe there's like a place in the corner. I position myself closer to there with my back towards the wall, so I can get to see as much of the scene as possible. And this might sound paranoid to you, but it's not paranoid. It's just a measure to take to protect yourself and the people you care about. So that's how you place yourself. Just like I told you in the introduction example with the restaurant, you do this for everywhere. Like I'm right here right now, this is for filming purposes of course with the lighting and everything, but I can see the whole balcony over here. I can see the way up to where I'm at. Now the threat level right here is pretty low. There's also a way to place others, right? If you converse with others in public, your friends, they like position themselves in a way that they kind of obscure your vision. You can make them position themselves to the side, right? So if we have the wall here and the town square is towards you, I could position themselves so I get to converse with them, but also have a peripheral pick up movement, rapid movements in the town square, just for example. So you can use that as well. You can place other people, you can place the people around you in certain ways to get as much information in as possible, but you're still gonna have to converse with the guy. You're still gonna have to be genuine in the conversation, but it's just to be able to pick up as much information as possible and come out on top always. At least maximize the possibility of you coming out on top in any situation. Usually the threats in these are off to the side, right? As I said with the clothing thing, they try to hide away. If, let's say for the Boston Marathon, right? You all remember what happened there. These two guys, they left backpacks in a crowded area and the backpacks blew up, right? But when they moved behind the crowd. Both wore hoodies as well, or like big jackets, kind of hide away. The threat will always move to the side, right? When you go against the enemy, you don't go where it's most obvious, right? So you try to take like the flanks and everything, right? You're trying to flank the enemy because that's an innate thing. You want to find a way around, right? If you see something is off and it's in the center, then that is a massive red flag. If the backpack is laid in the middle of the street, super red flag. Because that means that the threat is more likely imminent than if it were off to the side. Because somebody placed that thing there in the center. If a guy is walking down here with a heavy backpack, a hoodie, and he's trying to make his way towards the center of a group, then that is absolutely a threat. Also here, the thing is closed off the vehicles usually. If I saw a car in the middle of this place, that's a very, very red flag. So that's that. It's just assessing the environment in general and also getting a feel for what is right and what is wrong with the environment you're in. Again, this stuff can save lives. These things don't come in handy until they actually do, so it's worth it to get used to it. And as I learned in the Special Forces, if you're ever in doubt, you're not in doubt. Something is wrong. I just wanted to make a video on that, situational awareness. If you have a group of winners around you that all think like this, walk in and you can all assess different parts of the situation. I do this with my friends all the time. Back in Norway, where if we are out in the city, then we talk about this. Actually, you see that guy over there? It's like, yeah, we can assess the situation from it. It's, I find this interesting. As much as it is a necessary thing for me to do, because of the way I'm trained, first and foremost, I also find it very interesting. But I'll leave you guys with that. Situational awareness, a bit of a mini course, I guess. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Take care, and God bless.